Hey guys, Connor Richards of Pokernews here with the first episode of my new podcast, Life Outside Poker, where I speak with successful poker players who are also successful outside of poker. My first guest is Farah Galfond. Farah is a soap opera actress who spent more than a decade working on shows like Days of Our Lives, and she's also a high stakes poker player. We talked about her acting career, first getting into poker in Atlantic City, being married to fellow poker player Phil Galfond, raising their first child, and recently getting back into poker. But before that, I want to note that we filmed this interview at Roma Deli, one of the premier Italian restaurants in Las Vegas. It's owned by Poker Hall of Famer Todd Brunson and located at 5755 Spring Mountain Road. I recommend getting the chicken parm. Okay, let's get into that interview. There's a bunch of things that I want to talk to you about. Your acting career, which I learned started very young, and then, of course, your poker career, being married to Phil. But the first thing that I wanted to ask is, you grew up in Kentucky, I think Lexington. What was that like?
I sort of had a pretty stereotypical Southern upbringing. I was in beauty pageants and I did like local theater and local modeling and didn't love school very much. I wasn't very studious. In ninth grade, I loved drama so much. I like sort of begged my mom to take me to Hollywood to be an actress. And thankfully she was naive enough to think, okay, yeah, we can do that.
And even before that, you were a child model, is that right?
Yeah. From the time I was 5 years old, this is what my mom says. She says that I told her I wanted to do that. Like, she didn't understand how I knew what that was. But I guess I probably saw kids on commercials or in magazines, and so it's just I was always interested in theatrics.
You're named after Farrah Fawcett, right?
I am, yeah.
I'm sure your mom has something to do with getting you on this path, yeah?
So actually, my mom and my dad, I was supposed to be born in April, by the way. So my name was going to be April, but I was born a few hours into May 1st. So they didn't feel right about naming me April anymore. The backup name was Sarah. And so Sarah was probably going to be my name, but while they were in the hospital, the TV was on and Farrah Fawcett was on TV. And they both just looked at each other and were like, ugh. That's perfect because my maiden name is Fath, so I was double F for a long time.
Yeah, I see how that would work.
Yeah.
So what sort of acting opportunities were there in Kentucky? Or I'm sure that's why you went to Hollywood and found other stuff there.
Yeah, we had learned about a convention of sorts. It was also a competition for actors and models all over the country, and a lot of those things can be a scam, I think, but I think we got pretty fortunate in the sense that this wasn't a scam. There was legitimate agents and managers that came to discover new talent, from across the country that in most cases would never be able to get in front of these types of people. So I think the first time I did that, I was 8 years old, and I got a lot of offers for agencies and like big ones too. But I think my mom just didn't understand that it would be like an actual serious thing where like people are wanting us to move, and so she just kind of said, thanks, but no thanks. And I just went back to being a kid in Kentucky for a few more years. And then when I was 14, I asked her if we could go to that convention again and would she be like more on board this time if I got offers. And we were at a different place in our lives and she was down at that point. So I went back to the convention. I met a manager, signed with him, and then he got me an agent. And that was the summer after my freshman year.
How did the Days of Our Lives audition come into this?
So,
because you were young, right?
Yes.
15?
It was the summer, and when I signed with my agent, which, by the way, the first two agencies passed on me because I had no experience besides like local stuff. But the third agent took a chance and they thought we had moved permanently, but we were just there for a few weeks. Like, that's how naive my mom and I were. We just thought we could just make it in Hollywood in a month. But I got super lucky. The first audition that they sent me on was for Days of Our Lives, and I actually watched the show already. My babysitter watched it. My grandmother watched it. And I knew all the characters, and I actually knew the character I was auditioning for because it was a recast. So I had already seen this girl. And I think that just like really worked to my advantage because I like truly understood the storyline, and I had a lot of enthusiasm in my audition. And by enthusiasm, I mean like I talked the casting lady's head off because I was so fangirling over being there. And in hindsight, I can see how that worked for me because my character was actually like a bit of a blabby mouth. So yeah, it was just like fate, I guess. And then I ended up being on the show for almost 8 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know I'm certainly not the target demographic for a show like Days of Our Lives, but I actually do have very specific memories of like my mom watching it when I was younger. And I was reading about your characters' storylines and things like that. There was one that I vividly remember.
Okay.
It's what is it? Sean gets like held hostage and tied up by Jan.
Oh yes,
And
yes.
I, for whatever reason, back when I was in like 3rd grade, I was home and I vividly remember that scene. Is that one you remember?
And I think I remember that storyline. I don't really remember exactly what happened, but I think I ended up like killing her.
Oh wow. Yeah,
With a
I
rock.
only caught bits and pieces, but on a show as dramatic as Days of Our Lives,
Yeah, if
that
you're
going to
be on a soap opera for 8 years, you're going to kill at least one person.
What was that like playing a character for 8 years? I mean, does it take over your life?
A little bit. I definitely, between that role and then my next one, which was for almost 5 years, I definitely got used to having like an alter ego. And so when it was all over, I think I had like a little bit of an identity crisis because I no longer could like express myself through this other character which I could like go in and out of the snap of a finger. Like, and I got very attached to my characters. Like I loved them, and so I guess I mourned them when it was over, and had to learn how to just be Farah and not have a split personality.
I think you've talked about kind of losing yourself in character. Is there a therapeutic aspect to acting?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that I probably wanted to be an actress not to get away from my problems, but to lose myself in something and, not have to be me for a little while. I don't think like super normal kids just want to be an actor. I think like, I don't want to say like trauma and drama and everything kind of builds up in a kid, but looking back, like I think I probably used it as therapy to escape.
And especially being a child actor or, really anyone in Hollywood, I imagine it takes a toll on you.
Yeah. I think now in 2024, we're learning so much about what can go on as far as behind the scenes for child actors. And I think I was probably put into some positions that like I should just not have been in when I was a kid, and but I came out unscathed, and nothing really bad happened to me. I enjoyed all my time acting, and I look back fondly on it. Would I want my underage child or my kid to follow in my footsteps? Not really, no. Like, I think kids are great doing local theater and getting into drama and acting like that on a local scale. But growing up on a set it's not great mentally for a child.
And so Days of Our Lives, that's a very big role, and you were super young. You were a teenager when you started. You were around like 23 years old when you stopped.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever just look back and think like, wow, I was a lot younger than I realized I was? Like,
I definitely thought I was grown up while I was working there, but I was a baby. I mean, I spent my high school years and my college years. So it was like going to school. I mean, it was. I learned a lot, and that's where I grew up. And it definitely feels like another lifetime ago at this point. But like I said, only fond memories.
And what was it? What was it like leaving the show? I'm sure that was a difficult decision.
Oh my God. It was a lot easier said than done. I remember just wanting a change in my life, and my contract was up for negotiation, and I decided to walk away because I wanted to do comedy, or I wanted to just see what else I could, accomplish. And when you sign another contract, you're really just definitely like stuck in a way. Like I had booked a few movies over the course of my time on the show, and I wasn't approved to do any of them, so I just stopped trying to do stuff on the side. And I just thought, well, I want to see what I can do. But then on my last day, I walked to my car and I just started bawling, and I was just crying in my car, and I just was saying to myself, what did I do? Like, this was so stupid to leave something like this, and it all worked out, but I was really scared, more scared than I thought I would be.
And so you left Days of Our Lives in 2007, and you went to do another show, One Life to Live, and you were in Hollywood, and then you went to New York City. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, leaving Days was about just I wanted a change in my life, and I didn't really know exactly what that looked like. I auditioned for about 3 months. And for someone who had worked for 8 years straight, 3 months unemployment was like, it felt like 3 years to me. It felt, I was freaking out. I got really close on a pilot. It was between me and one other girl for a sitcom. And when I didn't get that, I just said to my agent, I said, all right, let's try to get on another soap opera, before like my popularity in that genre goes away. Like, I was still, well known in the soap opera world, so I thought I could probably just get on another one, right? Well, thankfully I was right. So they did have me screen test though. So I went to New York and I screen tested for One Life to Live. It wasn't just a pure offer, but I screen tested, and then they said, we don't want you for the role that you screen tested. We want to create a role for you, which was really flattering. And so they wrote the role just for me. So I had to wait a few more months before I started, but that was fine. At least I had something lined up. So I got to enjoy some time back in Kentucky in between shows. And then, I moved to New York, and that's when I really started to grow up. New York's a different beast than LA. The sets were completely different. The crew was completely different. Like, you get a little bit more fawned over in LA, like touching up your makeup, and in New York they were just like, get your ass on set, So it just was so different, and I liked that, and I needed that. I needed to be humbled, and I worked harder, and I wanted to make those people proud and not think that I was just some spoiled LA girl. So New York, those were some really pivotal years for me, like growing up. Yeah, for sure.
So that is very flattering. They wrote a character for you.
Yeah.
It also seems like, this is kind of a different role than you were playing on Days. Was it difficult making that transition?
Not really. The biggest difference was that my role on One Life was I was a single mom, and I was 23 years old, and I had no experience being a mom, and I didn't play a mom on Days. So I had this like 10-year-old kid that I was like being a mom to. So, I kind of wish that I did a fine job, I think. But like, now that I'm a mom in real life, it's like, oh, that would have been like, to have the experience to draw upon would have been nice. But what can I do?
And it also looks like when you moved to New York, that's when poker became a thing in your life.
So I didn't know anyone when I moved there, and I've told this story before, so sorry if you've already heard it. But I didn't know anyone, but the cast and the crew on One Life, they would get together for home games at people's apartments, and like different people would host it, and I got invited, and I knew the hand rankings because my dad taught me 5-card draw when I was a kid, but I didn't understand the betting, so I had to figure that out on the fly. I was a complete whale. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had so much fun. And when I lived in LA and when I was on days, I would go to Vegas quite a bit, and I loved playing card games. Just gambling in general is a little bit in my blood. But so I fell in love with poker, and when there wasn't a home game, I thought, well, how can I play poker this weekend? I just wanted to play every weekend when I had a couple days off. So I was like, well, I used to love going to Vegas. Let me try going to Atlantic City. So I go to Atlantic City, and I ran so hot the first day because I was checking in at the hotel at the Borgata, and the executive host recognized me, and he was a big fan. And he was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I was going to play some poker. I've never been here before. And he was like, anytime you want to come, you've got a room. And I was like, well, so that was like a lot of motivation to just keep going every weekend because I got a free room because the guy was a fan. Sorry, that was like not within protocol, but or within the rules. But that is why I started going to Atlantic City, and I would play tournaments and still like no studying really. Like I got maybe like one book, and I would watch it on TV, but I had a real job. Like I was just playing for fun, and I don't think I quite understood how much like study and work could go into it. And at that point, people were starting to study, I think. I mean, there were still a lot of bad players, but looking back, like I was a huge fish. Yeah.
Your first tournament cash might have been at Borgata in like 2010. So it does seem like that is when poker players started getting more serious kind of
it is. Yeah,
a few years after that.
Because I think I went to the World Series for the first time maybe like that year, 2010. That sounds right. And my friend who was living in Manhattan with me, we went together to play the ladies tournament, and she had been studying a lot. Like she had all kinds of books, and we're in our hotel room at the Aria, and I just see like all her poker books, and she's like looking at charts, and that I was like, what are you doing? Oh my God. So I was starting to become aware that you could actually try to get better at the game. But I was still, like I said, I was still working, and I didn't want to be a professional. I just wanted to have fun. So, but then One Life was canceled at the end of 2011. And
what was that like? An existential crisis moment?
A little bit. I mean, I definitely was worried, like, because I had run so hot with like working 13 years straight, and being a starving actor, I don't know. I didn't know what to expect, but I got back to LA, and I started playing more poker because I wasn't working anymore, and I would play at the Commerce, like super low stakes cash, and followed Phil on Twitter, and sort of the rest is history.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and talk about that. You mentioned you met Phil on Twitter. My first memory with Phil is seeing him on High Stakes Poker. Is that the first place you saw him?
Yeah.
You were just a fan?
Yeah, I liked his personality. I thought like he had a really dry, understated sense of humor that I liked.
Still has that today on Twitter all the time.
Yeah. And some of those personalities back then were so big, like so like bigger than life, and Helmuth and Negreanu and Farha, and then there was Phil, who just had like such a different dynamic than the rest of the players. So I definitely was a fan of his, and he was one of maybe 3 poker players I followed on Twitter when I was forced to get a Twitter by a production company. That's a whole other story. I had sworn off social media, and it was not good for my mental health. I read a lot of bad stuff about myself, on Facebook and MySpace, and then Twitter started to get popular, and I refused. I was like, I'm not doing that. I had deleted my Facebook and my MySpace, and I just wasn't on social. And I did a reality show, and part of the contract was to have a Twitter. And I said, well, I'm not doing that for my mental health. I've sworn it off. And they said, well, you have to have it, and so someone else will just run it for you. And so someone was running my Twitter account and speaking as me. And one day the curiosity just got the best of me. And I was like, let me see what they're saying. And it was just so embarrassing. Like, I've never talked the way that they were having me talk. And I was like, oh my God, people think I talk like this. So I asked them to give me the password, and I told them I would take it from there. So, if not for doing that reality show and having that contract, I would have stuck to my guns. Like, I never would have gotten to Twitter. So I guess I have them to thank, because Twitter is how Phil and I first corresponded. Yeah. It's just funny how things happen.
It does sound like something good came out of it. I don't blame you at all for getting off of social media, though. Even just as a journalist, I feel that so much because I'm constantly on it and kind of have to be, but it's just not good for mental health. That's got to be way worse, in the acting world, where people are probably very mean online, a lot of negative comments. How do you cope with that?
Almost all negative, it felt like. The two crafts that I've had in my life, acting and playing poker, I work so hard at both of them, or I worked, and then now I work. But I told Phil recently, like, the best compliment you can give me is complimenting my craft. Like that was such a great scene that you just did, or you played that hand so well, because that is rewarding, because I'm working hard at being good at those things. Like, so when your acting is just trashed every day, and I was constantly looking for just one person to say, like, I was good in that episode, and I could just almost never find it. So finally I realized, like, why am I letting these people who clearly don't have a lot going on, in their lives, that they have the time to talk about how I was a terrible actress in that scene, so why am I letting them? So that was a very liberating turning point for me. And, like, now I can read bad stuff about me and it doesn't bother me anymore. It used to completely depress me. So I think making that decision back then, really helped me now. And also I'm older now. It's like I don't give two craps, but compliments about my occupation, like that I'm doing a good job, that's what mean the most to me, not just like, oh, she's pretty, or oh, this, that, and the other. It's like, getting validated for something that I want to be good at.
Yeah, I love hearing stuff like that. I've been to journalism school, and that's a craft. I think of it the same way as writing is a craft. Who are the main inspirations for you on your acting career?
So when I moved to New York, the star of the show, her name was Erica Slezak, and she was, like 7-time Emmy winner. I don't know. She was like the goddess of goddesses in the soap opera world. And my storyline was my initial storyline was with her. So I knew that they were serious about me being on the show when they had me working with just her in the beginning. Like, that's how I was introduced on the show. And she was so professional, and she was so sweet, so prepared, so respectful to everyone. Not just on time, but early, always the first one there, ready to go she just oozed pure positive energy. And I'm not saying I didn't work with a lot of great people on days, but like she just was different. Like, she set a precedent, and she inspired me to be more professional, take my craft more seriously. She taught me gratitude. She made me realize, how lucky I was to be there, and she made me want to be better in all aspects. So she was very inspiring to me, Erica Slezak. And then the lady who played my mom on Days of Our Lives, her name's Judy Evans. also just a genuine soul, and she's always so grateful to be there every single day. She's like, I'm happy to be here. And when you find success so young, like I did, it's hard to always remember how lucky you are. You know, I didn't really work for it that long. I didn't struggle. I just, boom, got an amazing job. So I had to find my gratitude later.
So I asked who your favorite actor was. Is there a favorite movie or scene or performance, or what's your biggest inspiration?
You know, I used to be when I was acting, I was always the comedic relief on soap operas, and so I had a lot of comedic inspiration from Lisa Kudrow. I loved her in Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. The Friends cast. As I got older, though, Carey Mulligan to me is like the end all be all. She's my age, and her range is just incredible. So.
And who's somebody who believed in you or saw initiative in you early in your career? It sounds like your mom was obviously supportive, but was there a casting director or someone who you look back and think
it was my
like,
agent who turned into being my manager a few years later. His name's Kurt Patino. He is the first agent that at 15 with no experience saw something in me, and he's the one that sent me on the audition for Days of Our Lives. And I mean, we're still in touch to this day. Like, he remained my manager up until a few years ago, until I was finally like, I think it's over. But we still keep in touch, and I mean, I definitely credit him with discovering me for sure. Hi, Kurt.
Shout out to Kurt. Going back to Phil. So Phil, of course, is an excellent poker player, pot limit Omaha specialist. He's also very good at teaching the game, which is a skill that not all professional poker players have. What sort of a benefit has it been to you to, have him as a resource?
Yeah, I mean, everything I know is because of him. I think right away when we started dating, and we would just be messing around at home with cards and chips, like he would fix things right away. So, we don't spend a ton of time studying together and having like these one-on-one lessons, but certainly over the years, just being in his orbit, I am like a sponge, and I don't think he realizes to the degree that I'm absorbing from him. Just being in his universe and hearing him talk on the phone, or hearing him talk with his study partners or his friends, and I'm always taking it in, and even when he isn't actively teaching me or going over a hand with me, I'm learning from him. So, it's just been an accumulation over the years, and each year I kind of have like some epiphany about some part of my game, and it's a slow but steady progress in improving. And I mean, I am the player I am today a lot, because I want to be, but it's, mostly because of him.
Do you play pot limit Omaha at all?
I don't. There was a point in I played a little bit in cash games if there's like a half and half game. But no, I've watched him play, and there was a point where I thought, I could probably play PLO now. I've watched you play thousands and thousands of hands. Like, I think I get it. But it's just, I don't know. I'm still trying to get good, like as good as I can be at no limits. So I feel like that's just a constant struggle. So I don't want to bring in PLO, especially when like that's not really, I'm in the tournament mode now, and like that's not really what's out there.
It seems like a dangerous game as well. It plays a lot bigger than Hold'em. That's what I learned when I sat down to play 1-2,
As everyone says, the equities run much closer.
Yeah, they seem to.
Yeah.
Aces don't seem to be worth much. Yeah. So, you talked a bit about this, but Phil really stood out on high stakes poker. With all the strong personalities, the Phil Hellmuth, he was much more reserved, and he's known for his high integrity in the community. I want to know, what sort of father is he? How do those traits cross over there?
He's kind of what you would expect him to be. He's super cool and a fun dad, but definitely is very aware of emotions and feelings, and wants Spencer to feel like he is always in a safe place to share like what he's feeling, and lots of things turn into little lessons, and he's a great father, and Phil comes from a great family, so I knew he would be a great father, but it's always incredible to see your partner actually do it. Well, not always, I guess. For some people it might not be, but it's my favorite thing, watching him with Spencer.
And where did Phil grow up?
He grew up in Maryland. Yeah, right outside of DC.
Are you close with his family, his parents?
We're headed back there next month.
Let's talk a little bit more about poker, because so you moved to New York. You started going down to Atlantic City, just like in Rounders, pretty classic. What sort of stakes were you playing, and what sort of big games did you find yourself getting into?
In Atlantic City.
Whenever you started getting into poker and playing more?
I would play 1, 3, 2, 5, and then I would play whatever tournaments were running. A $200 tournament or a $700 tournament, whatever was going on. I was a losing player. I final tabled a couple like ladies events, but they probably had like 20 people to start. And then I grinded 2-5 for several years before I was comfortable moving up. And that was like 2015, 2016, 2017. And
was that in LA now?
No, that was in Vegas. So Phil and I settled down in Vegas in 2015. So cash, moved up to 510. And then I was beating 510 and 1020 when I got the opportunity to play much bigger. And then that's when my high stakes tenure started, was probably 2017. And that was for about 2 years until I had Spencer. So,
were those private Vegas games?
Yeah. I played as big as like 2,000, 4,000, no limit.
Wow. Any crazy stories from those days?
So many. It was a lot of playing at the, I guess it was Ivy Room, but now it's Table 1, the Aria. And then that game moved to the Wynn, in a private salon in the Wynn. I never played home games like at any home. It was always
just private games in the poker room.
And then, once I had my baby, it all kind of just stopped.
How old's Spencer now, and is he getting old enough that you can get back out there?
Yeah, so I was desperately trying to figure out my place in poker after he was born, and I tried a lot of things that just didn't work. I thought I would pick up where I left off in the high-stakes cash game scene, and that proved to be tremendously stressful. I just was too anxious. Leaving him at such a young age to go gamble, I put a lot of guilt on myself. And also the hours just weren't conducive with being a mom. And so it's like, well, okay, so this isn't going to be what I do now. I was like, do I just like drop down and like play some lower stakes just to like feed my appetite for playing? Because I didn't want to quit. But I found that cash games just gave me anxiety, and I couldn't quite figure out why, because that's all I had been doing for the previous 4 or 5 years. But it turns out that when you have a little kid and you're playing a cash game, you put pressure on yourself to go home because you can get up whenever you want. And so I just thought, well, I've been here 2 hours. I should go. Oh, I've been here 3 hours. Oh my God, I should really get up and go back home. And this is crazy. Why? What am I doing? And then I'd be there for a 4th hour and have a panic attack. And when he turned 4, my mom guilt had kind of gotten better. Just like I was able to like go do fun things without feeling like I needed to get home right away. And I was like, all right, so let me figure out how I can play poker regularly without feeling so anxious. And I'm going to try tournaments because tournaments, you're there until you bust. So maybe the pressure of getting up and going home will be lifted from me because I have no choice but to stay until my chips are gone. And it worked. Okay. So January of last year, I decided I'm just going to play tournaments this year. So I would look on the calendar, see what was coming up. I would coordinate with Phil, or if I needed to get extra childcare, I would do that in advance. So like everything was circled and planned ahead of time. And the year went by and I wasn't feeling anxious anymore and I was enjoying myself. Okay, I guess I'm an MTT pro now. So I just let it ride this year. We're almost into April, and I think I'm on track to play more this year than I did last year. Because what they tell you is the more volume you put in, the more chances you're giving yourself to, I don't know, make a return on your investment. So I'm putting as much volume as I can right now, as I possibly can, being a mom. And I don't know, I'm curious to see how this year ends up going. So far we're down a little bit, but it's still early.
Well, when I asked you about doing this interview, it was at the Win Millions. It was during a day 1 flight, and you ended up making day 2 and cashing. So congratulations on
thanks.
that. How was that event for you?
The main event.
Yeah, the main event.
I don't think I ended up coming out ahead. I was in for 3 bullets, but I lost very small on it. So that was a great tournament. I mean, I really enjoy playing at the Win. Yeah, it's tournament life.
And just to go back to what you were saying about getting anxiety over cash games, it's pretty funny because I think you hear a lot of people say the opposite of why they prefer cash games is, hey, there's the flexibility. Yeah. You're not stuck there. But it totally makes sense how when you kind of have guilt feeling like you should leave and it's not you making the decision, then that anxiety would go away.
It was so liberating to figure it out because I missed playing on a regular basis, and that was like not fun feeling like that. Like I even went as far as I hired a hypnotherapist. I said, I need to stop feeling this incredible mom guilt when I go play poker. And that helped a little bit, but it wasn't until I discovered that tournaments didn't make me feel like that. Yeah, and I understand. I mean, that's why I used to play cash. Well, besides the fact that it was very profitable, and this is a harder way to make money in poker, I loved being able to kind of just do whatever I wanted and sleep in or, show up whenever I want or leave whenever I want. Yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of people love playing cash, but they don't typically have newborn babies. So.
And aside from kind of the anxiety of being away from your child, did having a child make you think about the money differently, make you feel a little differently when you're out gambling, playing 2,000, 4,000,
Phil has helped me just not look at my bankroll as real money.
Yeah.
So I am pretty numb to losing money, and I don't really struggle with that so much. I would like to win money. I would like to make money and not be a losing player. Yeah, that would be great. But no, I don't think like having Spencer changed any of that. If anything, it's just made me want to succeed and have some wins, because I would love to be able to bring home a trophy for him and make him proud, because so far he just thinks mommy always loses. And he tells me to get first place all the time, and I never do.
Poor kid. One of these times.
Yeah, one time for Spencer.
So you mentioned being numb to the loss of money. Mm-hmm. Phil, of course, has done a lot of these like high stakes heads up for rolls challenges. Mm-hmm. There was one a couple of years ago against Venividi.
Venividi.
Venividi, mm-hmm. And Phil was down quite a bit. I think he paused the challenge, kept his composure, and then came back and ended up winning the whole thing. What sort of a roller coaster was that like for the household?
Wow. It was during lockdown, and Spencer was 1 year old, and then we were in Vancouver, so not in our home. And I was just a very tired mom, and my husband was losing every day, and I no longer could figure out any words of wisdom. It was just felt like rock bottom. And it was a very low time. So when he came back and won, it was just awesome. I mean, because we were at the lowest of low publicly. I mean, he was being just thrown under, like, he's washed up, he's this, he's that, he's delusional. So it was pretty rough. And then to get the W at the end was like, I mean, it was tremendous. From the lowest of low to the highest of high. Yeah, that was a wild ride. I mean, I don't think we'll ever have another ride like that, either one of us, in this industry or in this game. Yeah,
that was crazy. How about Phil? Is he playing much these days? He's focusing on
coaching
stuff
right now. He's been doing some group coaching. That's been very, very rewarding for him. He, teaching runs in his family. His mom's a teacher. His brother's a teacher. His dad taught him math. His dad was a statistician. And it's just in his blood. And he genuinely, he gets so much out of it. And he's so good at it. So he's focused on that right now. I asked him recently, because people ask me all the time at the poker table, when's Phil going to play again? Where's Phil? Is Phil going to play this summer? Phil. So finally I came home and I said, this is just like a week ago. I said, honey, are you just done playing? And he said, no. He was adamant, no. So he's not done. I don't know when he'll make his return, but right now he's coaching.
So something that's interesting is you've lived in Los Angeles, you've lived in New York City, you've lived in Las Vegas. You've played poker in all these places. When you were in New York, you were in Atlantic City. Yeah. What are the differences between those poker scenes in those three places, and which do you prefer if you were to play, say, a cash game?
Play a cash game? Looking back at the Atlantic City days, like, now when I play with people that are Borgata regulars or East Coast regulars, they're also, like, their personalities are so distinctly different than the West Coasters, and not in a bad way. I'm just saying they're different, and they're hilarious. But like playing back there, I mean, I guess I was just used to the New Yorker life, but like I feel like I would be so out of like place playing there now. But I haven't played in LA in a long time. The commerce was something. I'm so comfortable in Vegas. I'm such a big Vegas fan that I would like. That's why I don't travel to play. I mean, you have all the resources right here all the time, every day. There's something, and the casinos are so beautiful here, and everything's so nicely run. You have the best floor staffs in the world are in Vegas, so. I just would play in Vegas. I don't know why you'd want to go anywhere else. These people that travel the circuit, it's just not for me.
Yeah, some of them
sleep in my own bed. Thank you.
Some of them don't have beds. It sounds like,
they don't. They don't have homes. They just go.
Yeah, and you're definitely not wrong about the Atlantic City scene. I've only been down there once to cover a tournament, but I did get to play, and just totally different vibe.
Yeah.
A lot of gold chains and jewelry and things like that.
More power to them.
it's fun. They
Yeah,
were
no,
all
they're
nice people.
yeah,
Very
all
nice.
nice and hilarious. Yeah.
So you said you don't really like traveling for poker. You don't need to. You're here in Vegas. One of the things that I love about my job is I've gotten to go to Europe and
Yeah.
cover European poker tour. Where are the places that you've gotten to go with Phil or just playing on your own?
Well, we had a place in Vancouver for several years. I loved living in Vancouver. Have you ever met anyone that has something bad to say about Vancouver? No. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, amazing city. Let's see. I mean, Phil and I have been places not necessarily for poker, but we're both just very big homebodies. So he doesn't travel for poker. I don't travel for poker. Never say never, though. I mean, when our son's older, that might be some good opportunity to travel as a family. Maybe hit up a stop or something. But no, I wouldn't. I don't have very many answers to this question because, yeah.
How about living in Las Vegas? Great place to be a poker player. What's it like raising a kid here?
We have such good friends here. We have a really great group, and we all started having babies around the same time. And most everyone in the group is a poker player. And now our kids are growing up together, and it's a really special time in our lives. We get to all be poker players and have that in common. And then now we're raising these kids, the next generation, the baby Roble, the baby Coon, the baby Galfond. and it's just special. I can't see moving anywhere now that we have this great tight knit a group of friends that we're all kind of on this journey together at this point.
It sounds like you'd be comfortable with Spencer growing up and being a poker player.
Yes, only because his parents kind of have a good grasp on things, especially Daddy. Daddy will help him do it the right way. I think if you have I've seen a few 21-year-olds move out to Vegas recently, and they're playing in all the same tournaments I'm playing, and I get so curious with these little babies. They look like babies to me. And I'm like, how are you rolled for this? How are you out here at 21? Are your parents nervous? Do they need my number? They can call me if they're worried about you. But they're doing it right, and they've done their homework. And one of them even told me he applied for Run It Once, a job at Run It Once when he was 15 years old. And I was like, okay, so you have your stuff together then, I guess, if you're applying to Run It Once at 15. So yeah, I mean, it can be done, and these kids are finding ways to build their roles before they're 21, and they have the right study tools, and they're doing it the right way. And I think I'm not sure how they have done it the right way. I don't know if they have a poker playing father such as Spencer would, but yeah, I would be supportive of that, much more so than him wanting to go be an actor. That would we'd have to figure something out there.
That's interesting, that poker over acting. Is that just the way, I don't know, the things that we've learned about Hollywood in the last, decade or so, or the way that the industry is going, or you just...
All of that.
All of it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, going into poker when he has two parents who know what they're doing and
we could
aren't
set
degenning.
Strict guidelines, and he would do all right. Yeah.
So yeah, living in Vegas, I think it's tough for a lot of people. Vegas, great party city. I hear all the time people who will come work the WSOP for Pokernews for a few months, they say I could never live here. 2 months is too much.
Yeah.
You don't seem to feel that way. You've really settled into things here. How do you do Vegas?
How old are these people that you're talking about? Are they in their early 20s?
Yeah, mid-20s.
Yeah. So Phil and I moved here, I think, when we were 30, and partying was never a big part of Phil's life anyway, but I kind of got tired of the party scene in my early 20s. So I can see how, I mean, I've heard that a million times. I could never
Yeah.
live in Vegas. How do you live there? It's because you have the experience of, in 2009, you came on a bachelorette party and puked for 3 days, There are beautiful communities and neighborhoods and great people here that, we have nice schools, we have nice shopping, we have nice restaurants, we have all the things that any other nice place to live in America would have, except we have the Strip. And the locals don't really go to the Strip that much, and we don't party. This is just our home, but we have it in case we want to, and that's nice,
Yep, I'm from Utah. I've lived here for the last 8 months or so, still getting used to it, but it's much more than the Strip. And I didn't realize how much nice outdoor stuff there is.
Yeah.
Red Rock Canyon.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of that stuff?
Mm-hmm. Go to Red Rock quite a bit, and I'm outdoors as much as I can, especially during this time of the year before the heat sets in. And look, I don't have allergies on the West Coast, so that's another big plus, because on the East Coast, I'm a mess. Pollen, and I don't know, I like the dry climate. You get used to it. If you get a little bit of a dry nose, you just turn your humidifier on low. You're going to be okay.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up here, there's just a couple more general off-topic questions that I wanted to ask. First of all, a lighter one. You're a fan of early 2000s hip-hop, I think you've said.
Yeah, how do you... Did I say that?
I think it was with Kara Scott. You did an
Okay.
interview with her. You said that. But I'm a big music person. I'm always going to ask everyone about music.
Yeah.
I also love early 2000s hip-hop.
I mean, that's just my era. I think on the way here, I heard... I think I just put a shuffle on, and Bling Bling by Lil Wayne and Birdman came on, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is a good song to hear on the way to this Pokernews podcast today.
I think you're right about it being like an era thing. I get nostalgia for a lot of those songs. That's when I first really got into music. So yeah, exciting stuff, a good time. You're not too into music other than that?
Just a big Britney Spears fan.
Hey, okay.
Britney, yeah. It's all rubbing off on my son. Like he listens to all of the pop girls that I listen to. He has reignited my my love for Britney's catalog. There are a lot of great songs that kind of went under the radar that he has brought back into my life. So that's been a really full circle moment. He knows a lot about Britney and Gaga and Beyonce and Katy Perry, and it's interesting when you hear kids say, well, my parents grew me up on the Beatles, or my parents grew me up on Michael Jackson. He's going to say my mom grew me up on Britney Spears, and I don't know. I just couldn't be more proud.
Did you hear Beyonce's Texas Hold'em song?
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That'll bring some more people to the game.
Yeah, I liked Joe Stapleton's tweet. Do you think Beyonce knows me?
I'm sure Beyonce knows you, Joe. No doubt about that.
She made the song for you.
Yeah, that was a good poker shout. No doubt about that. Yeah. Okay, what's a period of your life that you get nostalgic for?
Oh, probably my soap opera days. I definitely don't like to be the person that lives in their glory days. I don't bring it up too often. It was a long time ago, but I'll come across a photograph, or sometimes on Twitter, people will tag me in old clips. And usually, up until maybe a year ago, I never would watch them because I don't like watching myself or hearing my voice. And so I'm the
same way.
It's too cringy. But I recently kind of made myself not get over that, but just force myself to watch a few of these clips. And it wasn't so bad, but yeah, because what am I gonna do? Just never look at an old clip again? I need to reflect and take the time to also just be proud of that era, and not just try to forget that it ever. I'm not actively trying to forget that it happened, but I don't. Yeah, because I don't want to be the person that's like, remember when I was on a show 15 years ago? Yeah, so I'm getting better at being able to watch old clips.
And you did return to Days of Our Lives in 2018.
Yeah, it was like the week I found out I was pregnant, and I was so sick. And I worked on I think I worked for like 2 to 3 weeks with just like the worst morning sickness. And I couldn't even enjoy being back because I was so nauseous on set.
Were you hiding it from them?
I was, but then like I had to tell a couple of my close confidants because I didn't want them to think that I was just, because I didn't want, if I'm acting weird, I just wanted them to know why. So I let a few people in on the secret. So gosh, I mean, I wish that I could have enjoyed going back, but I was so sick I couldn't. I don't know. Maybe I'll have another chance one day. I don't know.
Well, Spencer is getting older, so it does seem that could be something in your future if you wanted to get back into it.
And I recently asked my sister and Phil, I was like, when should we tell the kids that I used to be an actor? Like,
They don't? Wow.
When should I show them clips? Like, that would be funny to see their reactions. We haven't done it yet, but maybe I'll film the reactions. I bet it's
Please
just
do. Let us know
it
how
might
that
just
goes.
be a letdown, though. They might just be like, oh, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I think my nieces kind of know, but like don't truly know.
Well, that'll be exciting. Please,
and Spencer has no idea.
Please film it when you do that.
Okay.
We're all curious to see that. Knowing all that you know now and where you're at in life, what is something that you would tell your younger self?
Save more money. And that it's okay to be vulnerable. And talk about your feelings and get in touch with your feelings and not bottle things up and not try to be too tough. And ask for help when you need it.
Those are good pieces of advice, I think, for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
What's something in the world that makes you hopeful? Especially being a mother, you know.
Yeah, our young people. Gen Z. I don't know what generation my son is in. Is he? I don't.
Ooh,
he's 5.
Gen Alpha, maybe.
He's
I don't know what the new one is.
I think, I think the young people, they care about our planet. They care about women's rights. They care about the right things. And so that makes me hopeful. I was just recently kind of thinking to myself, like, a lot of the boomer generation are very stuck in their ways and not as open-minded. And I think our younger generation and ours, we're just more open-minded. And I think that's a very critical way to be.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. All right, last question. It's going to be a poker one. One thing that I love about poker, and I think a lot of people do, is just how many metaphors and ways it can relate to life. What's your favorite life lesson that you've drawn from poker?
My favorite life lesson from poker? Honestly, that it's just money. And money comes and goes, but it's not what makes us truly happy. We all want to make money, and we want to make as much money as we possibly can. But Phil and I, at one point in our marriage, we had a lot of money, and then we didn't, and we're happier than ever. And I just don't. I think people need to put a little bit less pressure on themselves to make more money. I think it's fine to have ambition and to want to succeed, but money comes and goes.
That's a good one.
And it's the relationships in your life that what truly matter.
Well, Farah, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for coming down and doing this.
Thank you, Connor.
This was great.
Thank you so much.